talked extensively about the border crisis over the last several years, and we have heard countless stories of the horrors of the things that people are enduring on their journey here. Unfortunately, the things that we really need to be upset about are the exact stories that the media does not want us to hear or to pay attention to. Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. I appreciate you being here, whether this is the first time you have clicked on one of my videos or you are a returning supporter. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, make sure that you are subscribed so you can help me to grow this channel, and also make sure that your notifications are turned on so that you never miss out on a conversation like the one we're about to have. So as we prepare for the upcoming Trump administration, one of the biggest things that cannot happen fast enough is to get our southern border under control. For years, we have watched caravan after caravan of thousands of people coming through Mexico, marching toward our southern border, knowing that they can come in these large groups because the administration of the last 4 years has done everything they can to make sure that as many of them as possible are admitted into the US, with no care about who they are, no vetting about what they've done, no question about what they plan to do once they get here. Regardless of all of those important factors, they are given travel to different areas of the country, they're given housing, they're given food, they're given education and medical care. All, of course, is coming out of our pockets, while the quality of life for our own citizens has gone down and largely been ignored. But the incentives have been there, and the red carpet has been rolled out for pretty much anybody on planet Earth that wants to come to the United States. When we've listened to KJP get up in the White House press room and tell the country that this administration has taken unprecedented action on the border, she has been telling the truth. Countless attacks have been launched by this administration against border states trying to curb the invasion, from suing them for putting additional law enforcement at the border, or suing them for putting boys in the water, or using the media to spread lies like border agents are whipping people coming across the border. As we've watched thousands of people walking hundreds of miles to get here, the media narrative has been that seeing a woman walking hundreds of miles with a baby on her back, or hearing about the countless families sleeping on the road night after night, taking the risk of dying of starvation and exhaustion, the idea is that if they are willing to do all of that, that it must be because they're leaving something behind that's more horrifying than what they might endure on the trip to the US. And therefore, if we're truly compassionate and living up to our stated values as a Christian nation, then it's our job to let them come here, to let them bypass our laws, and to let them stay indefinitely, even if it causes suffering for our own citizens because we don't have enough to take care of everyone, even if there are people among them who might be gang members, terrorists, or criminals. The media also likes to pretend that family separation is the worst thing that could possibly happen to these people. But in order to make that narrative believable, they have to ignore the actual horrors of what the Biden-Harris unprecedented border policies have caused for countless people, particularly women and children, in the last few years. And just what are some of the horrendous, despicable things that they have been ignoring? Well, yesterday, a video clip of a little girl popped up on Twitter, and through a conversation with a border agent, we learned some truly horrifying things about her situation.
Had this interview with a 2-year-old at the border without her parents. Watch.
Venezuela, mamá. Venezuela. ¿Sí? ¿Qué tantos años tienes? ¿Dos años? ¿No vienes con tu mamá y tu papá? ¿No? ¿Venezuela? ¿Para dónde vas, mamá? ¿Dónde están? ¿Estados Unidos?
That 2-year-old was part of a group of 211 migrants who were crossing over into Maverick County. There were 60 unaccompanied minors. 60 little kids like that. And you know what? No parents to be seen. There she is, showing that she's 2 years old. All she's got is that piece of paper. And on that piece of paper is a name and a phone number. And her entire future is on that piece of paper. Can you imagine you lose that piece of paper? But that's the way this system is set up, and that's how the cartels are gaming it. Okay. There's the person, they're going to call that number, they're going to say, we've got this little girl down at the southern border, Maverick County. How can we get her to you?
That is legitimately insane. Tell me, what is humane and compassionate about that? The answer is nothing. If she does not have a vetted support system, which I guarantee she doesn't, and that verification will not happen, she will be handed over to whoever is on the other end of that contact information on that piece of paper, and that will be the last that we see of her. To go a little further into this story, this article says, unaccompanied 2-year-old reveals the horror behind humanitarian Biden border policies. It's the Biden administration's horrific border policy in a single image. A 2-year-old El Salvadoran girl crossing the border into Texas, clutching a piece of paper with a phone number scrawled on it. She had allegedly come here on her own to find her parents and was picked up on Sunday along with a passel of other unaccompanied children. This is what Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the rest of the Open Borders crew have wrought. Millions upon millions of illegals arriving and being released into the interior with the flimsiest of instructions to appear for their day in court. Unemployed and unhoused, they create huge fiscal strains on tiny border towns and big cities as far from the border as Chicago and New York. The generous freebies offered by Dem-run states and cities create a massive draw to ever more border jumpers. It's known as La Imitation. The flood tide overwhelms the capacities of our federal border agencies and the Department of Homeland Security. That means criminals are free to cross and do what they like. Witness the rapid U.S. expansion of Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, or crimes like the horrific murder of Laken Riley by an illegal. And this is not an isolated incident by any stretch of the imagination. This is what has been normalized, especially in the last few years. Laura Rodas, who has been working in these detention facilities for a couple of years now, blew the whistle on this stuff a few years ago, yet Democrats don't seem to want to listen. They listen to the false narratives about family separation and kids in cages while ignoring the actual problem.
Migrant children are working overnight shifts in slaughterhouses and factories, and some may die today because they don't have the knowledge or skills to do the job that they're supposed to be doing. But they're doing it because they need to repay debts to their smugglers and traffickers. Children, boys and girls, are being sold for sex. Just last month, I spoke with a care provider in Florida who told me about cases of migrant children as young as 8 with sexually transmitted diseases.
Obviously, we are all aware that illegal immigration, cartel, and trafficking problems have been a thing for a long, long time. This did not start under the Biden administration. It was happening under Trump. It happened under Obama. It happened under Bush, and so on. And this same whistleblower acknowledged that.
For over a decade, the United States Department of Health and Human Services has been responsible for the suffering of countless children. HHS has a 10-year demonstrated record of losing children to sponsors who abuse, exploit, traffic, and harm children in unthinkable ways. Now, to be fair to HHS, they are not an investigative or law enforcement agency. HHS simply does not have the knowledge, skills, ability, or the tradecraft to protect children from traffickers. Child trafficking has evolved into an international syndicate of gangs and cartels. It's highly organized and efficient. It mirrors the tactics and operations of terrorist organizations. Smugglers and traffickers have moved more than 500,000 children. They flooded across our borders, and we have delivered them to criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations who are using the UC program as a white glove delivery service of children. Criminal sponsors are defrauding the US government by using this government program as a logistical chain in their trafficking operation. These children are not merely victims, they are hostage of transnational criminals and the financial backbone of material support for organizations seeking to profit off of the lives of children. This simply must change.
What I found particularly interesting about the language that Ms. Rodas was using is she kept using the words transnational criminal organizations. Isn't that something that Kamala Harris repeatedly bragged about being an expert in?
I have fought for children and survivors of sexual assault. I fought against transnational criminal organizations.
Honestly, this makes the explosion of this activity in the last few years that much more depraved, because if she was an expert in this field, as the border czar, she would have been the first one to advocate to clean up the HHS, to stop this activity, and to crack down on the border. And she did none of that. She didn't even go to the border once. And as I said, I know that this has been a problem for a long time. However, there is a huge difference between acknowledging that this is a problem and trying to curb it as much as possible, like, say, building a wall, funneling people through our detention centers, limiting the number of people who can come through so we can do our due diligence on their background check, conducting rapid DNA tests to make sure that kids are actually coming with their families, and making the countries that these people are coming from play a role in ensuring that we're not getting the worst of their own citizenry. Like Trump did. Deporting people who should not be here by the millions if necessary, like Obama did, like Clinton did, who both deported far more than Trump ever did. Versus removing standards like the Remain in Mexico policy, stopping rapid DNA tests, creating the CBP-1 app, flying people into the interior of the country, giving them a home and food, and supporting states with sanctuary laws, and issuing protected status to thousands of people who are reportedly wreaking havoc on innocent communities of American citizens. The point isn't that trafficking drugs and cartels have always been a problem, because nobody is denying that. The point is, do we have an administration that is doing everything they can to stop it, and instances of criminal behavior will still happen, or do we have an administration that is doing everything they can to facilitate the criminal behavior and then pushing a narrative through the media that everything is fine and calling anyone who is suffering under the policies racist, so people will stop talking about how big of a problem is, and therefore allowing it to continue to happen out of the public eye because no one wants to be called a racist for saying something. Women and children are enduring the most horrifying violations of their human rights imaginable. Children are being separated from their families long before they even get here. And as the Biden regime eliminated rapid DNA testing, the message when they get here is that no one is going to check to make sure that they're safe and that they're with a legit relative, and no one cares if they're okay. The absolute depravity of the current border situation is exactly why we need someone like Tom Homan stepping in, determined to crack down on this problem. And as the new border czar, his work on this issue is not only going to magnify how deeply and intentionally Kamala Harris and this past administration failed on this issue, but how much they could have done to stop this and chose not to. And what is driving Tom Homan to solve this problem and to crack down on this illegal, disgusting activity are the things that he has personally witnessed.
Is complicit in the smuggling of millions of people into this country. And we look at just the children. We have over 500,000 children that were smuggled in this country by criminal cartels that this administration released to so-called sponsors, 500,000, and they can't find them. And that's something I want to talk about real quickly. President Trump is committed. This is just not a deportation operation that we're targeting the worst of the worst first. We're going to find those 500,000 children. We're going to save them. We'll put them back to their families. That's what President Trump's committed to doing.
And you're talking about the children that were used by criminal illegal immigrants that don't even know these children, and they use them to get into the country. We know that's happened on a large scale, correct?
Absolutely. Children have been rented by the criminal cartels to single males, go across the border, be released. The child goes back, gets re-rented again. And we know what happens to these children, Sean. And look, the illegal aliens coming across the border, people need to understand, 31% of women that make that journey get raped by criminal cartels. Children get raped. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 that have been raped multiple times. These cartels are animals, and that's why President Trump's going to take them off the face of the earth. They have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world. And President Trump is committed to call them terrorist organization and use the full might of the United States Special Operations to take them out.
Among the many things that are so despicable about this whole situation, one of them is that Tom Homan isn't privy to more information about what's going on at the southern border than the Biden-Harris administration. It's not like he knows what is happening to women and children, and Biden and Harris do not know, and that's why they haven't been more harsh on closing the border. And Biden and Harris are not driven by the idea that these people are coming here for a better life. They're not on the side of innocent people. They know that this stuff is happening, that it has exploded on their watch, and they know everything that Tom Homan knows. The difference is that these atrocities that are being committed against innocent women and children drives Tom Homan to want to stop it, to reunite kids with their parents, and to cut off the ability for the cartels to run these operations by putting in strict policies that say you have to prove that that is your kid and that is your wife, and waiting for a background check to be run so that we know that we're not exploiting human beings used to make money on operations between the US and these other countries. Whereas Kamala and Joe knew this information and it drove them to cover it up, to protect the false veneer of compassion that they want to uphold, and that truly makes them psychopathic. This is the kind of stuff, among many things, that leave me truly astonished when I hear from liberals that they can't associate with their friends and family who voted for Trump, because it's not about a difference in voting, it's about their morals as a human being. They truly try to throw the morality card in there while ignoring the blatantly sociopathic behavior of the person that they wanted us to vote for. It's laughable. I don't know about you guys. I am ready to see what Tom Homan is going to do on this issue, and I pray that this stuff stops. These women and children deserve far better than what the Democrats have given them in the last few years. If you guys want more information on the issue of illegal immigration, I did a long conversation with an immigration attorney just a few days ago. I will link it in the description box. We talk about things like what it means to seek asylum and who should be worried about these mass deportations. Please have a look at that interview. It was a very informative conversation. I would love to hear all of your thoughts in the comments below. Please hit that thumbs up button. Please hit that subscribe button. Help me to grow this channel. If you want to support my channel further, there is a buy me a coffee link in the comments and in the description box. $5 will go to help me build this channel and to continue to bring more content to you. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one.